Hi, everyone. Welcome back to an Impact and Influence series. I've been a bit slack, been doing a bit of traveling lately, so we haven't had one of these for a while, but you won't be disappointed from today's chat. We've got Jim Swan with us. How are you, Jim?
I'm really well, Kylie. How are you?
I'm great. Excited to be talking to you and sharing with industry your story. Jim's the CEO of Property Services 360. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the interview because we're partnering with Jim's company for our conference in August. And we'll talk about the wonderful sponsorship partnership that you're bringing to the table there so attendees can get in the draw to win. But I've worked with Jim before in a previous life, and he's got an amazing backstory. And impact and influence is exactly that. It's around stories that we can bring to industry that will impact people personally and professionally. And sort of we want everyone to come away from these stories with something, that leaves a burning desire in them to probably get some better balance, change something in their life, but assess their priorities, Jim. And I think you've been great at doing that. So probably if we can humanize Jim Swan, you can share with everyone that's listening today, where were you born and bred? Because it's quite interesting in itself.
Look, a lot of people don't know this. I was actually born in Papua New Guinea, a little place called Wewak. Mum and Dad at the time were in New Guinea working for the government. Dad was doing some sort of secret stuff with the government. And cut a long story short, I spent most of my childhood in a place called Kandrian on the west side and in a little village, coastal village. And I grew up with the natives. Went to school with them. I was the only white guy, little white child, and I did what they did. We sort of, we ran around. We disappeared at times, and no one knew where we were, and we found it. We found out we'd get our own food, and incredible. It was an incredible time. I don't have a hell of a lot of memories of it, unfortunately, but I do have some really powerful ones, and certainly, I think it's had a big influence on who I am. Yeah,
talks a lot to your adventurous side, which we're going to get into in a minute. But I'm not quite sure. Growing up over there and being wild and running around and fending for yourself, and you've said to me before, going MIA overnight, and your mother going, "Where have you been?" I think any of us here would more than freak out if our 7 or 8 year old disappeared overnight. But
I think I was 5 or 6. I think I turned back with came back with the dog and a bush knife, and there was. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's how the story goes now. And there was, I think it was a really wild time. It definitely has influenced me as a person.
Absolutely. And I think I'm struggling with the fact that, you got back here, English was your second language, but you did so incredibly well, academically as things went on, economics and commerce major, CPA, which I don't think a lot of people know about you. And I guess, knowing you personally, I was really surprised when I found out, that sort of tertiary education, given that adventurous side. What led you to doing those studies at uni, and then what led you to not pursue it?
It's a good question. I think they're the big questions. I'm having them with my son at the moment. I probably did the wrong thing. I mean, I just did my degree for security. I had no intention of really, it was always like I just get a degree, and I didn't really know what to do. I think at that time I was really focused selfishly on sport. And I just thought, well, I've got to do something. So I did. I actually got into law at Townsley Uni, but I didn't pursue it up there. I did commerce economics down at Canberra because I was playing rugby down there at the time, and I just did enough to get through. And and I had no intention of ever doing it. But I think it's great that if you've got something behind you, it means that you've been able to go and commit yourself to something and get it done. Really, I suppose.
I think a combination of that any analytical side, but also you are so fantastic with people, with relationships. That combo's probably taught to a lot about why you've been so successful in what you've done. I just want to, before we talk about business, I just want to touch a little bit more, and you talked then a little bit about sport. Yep. And you'll try anything. What are some of the things that you've done from the sporting side of things, or adventures where you've really pushed yourself, that's helped you with lessons in life, like a couple of things you've participated in?
Look, I was fortunate enough to always play high level rugby all the way through junior schoolboys, under 21s and sort of into, first grade and that kind of stuff. So I've always been around really well managed teams. And that's probably influenced me a whole lot about sporting culture. Like winning team culture is, I think, is really, really important. Getting on with people in your team, no matter what race or sexuality, or as long as they get the job done, then everyone finds a way to get on. And I think that's, if I really look back, that's really played a big part in me as well. That's just all that whole high level team culture. And certainly after rugby, if you like, I went a bit of league. I had a little bit of a league experience there as well. But then I still needed that outlet. So then I started, doing a lot of treks and marathons and
But tell us about the Conrad Marathon. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, well, that's the whole experience in itself. It's 90 kilometres. They run from Peterborough to Durban. It's a million people line the streets, live TV for 12 hours. It's a bit of a crazy coming of a person in South Africa. They're obsessed with this event. It's the biggest ultra in the world. Anyway, it's 90K, so you have to. It took me, a good couple of years to get myself mind ready for it. Not that I was planning for it, but there's just a lot of preparation to go into it and to make the day what it is.
What sort of prep? So, things don't just happen. Just to give everyone an idea of
that. It's crazy stuff. People don't even think you can do it. You at some point you're running in excess of 100K a week in training with your long runs. I mean, I can tell you, living in Five Dock, I can remember my last long run for Comrades. I actually ran from my place to Bondi, back to my place, back to Bondi, which was 60 plus K as the training for the long run. Now we're not running flat out, but there's a lot of hard prep and a lot of discipline that goes into turning up on the day and being able to enjoy it. Yeah, it's a big thing. If I'm thinking about what I'm most proud of in terms of what I've done, that's myself, then that would be it probably. Yeah.
What's the terrain like in a race like that? What sort of conditions are you running in?
You leave in the dark. And it's amazing because they sing their national anthem, and then everybody, like there's 14,000 people there, and they sing what they call the Sushalusha, and it's quite. If you Google it, if you want, if anyone wants to, it's absolutely crazy. And then you run all day basically, and you I can remember at one point running with Zulus in full fighting kit, and carrying spears, like they ran the whole 90K as well. And yeah, it's an incredible experience. Yeah, I've got goosebumps now thinking about it actually. But
it's amazing. And I'm gonna put the link in to the race.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
People can check it out. And for the really disciplined ones that want to motivate themselves to, maybe push themselves. We've got a couple of clients that do marathons, so maybe that's
I know all about the Comrades then, yeah.
Next benchmark for us is because I'm an athlete. How long does a race like that take?
It took me a little over 10 hours. I was as fit as I'd ever been, so I was able to put in I'm really proud of that time as well. But the most amazing thing over there is, and only South Africans can do this, I reckon, but they have a cutoff. It used to be 11 hours, now it's 12 hours. And if you don't make that cutoff, it's live TV, then they literally run across the finish line, and there's big blokes hold their arms like this. Even if you're crawling, they won't let you cross, and you don't even get a medal. All you got your air ticket to say you've been to Comrades. So come back next year, get under the 12 hours, and then get your medal. So but that's what makes it so special as well. Like there's people literally 2 meters from the finish they're not allowed to finish. That's it.
Yeah, well, certainly want to encourage you to get better at being better, I suppose. There's that benchmark there, isn't there?
True, absolutely.
So you just amaze me with how you push through and your mindset. You're probably, very hard on yourself, but once you've got something in your lens, the commitment and the dedication. So Sydney to Hobart, how many times have you done that?
3. Yeah, 3 times, yep.
How does one get on a boat to Sydney to Hobart?
Look, it's easy and it's hard. I mean, I was very, very fortunate in that one of my great friends had done 15 or 16 beforehand, and he was quite a high-profile skipper, and he actually had left the industry for about a year, and I ran into him, funnily enough, with Direct Connect, which was a business that I was running at the time, and we were moving it into Queensland, and I just caught up with him for a beer, and I said, mate, I really wanted to Sydney to Hobart. How do we do it? And he just said, well, I can make it happen. It was as simple as that. What was that? And then we agreed that he would bring 5 of his mates, which were all sailors, and I would bring 5 of all my mates who weren't sailors. And then we got a charity involved. So we got the George Gregan charity involved, and we put together the whole program, literally that arvo, and 6 months later we did Hobart on a 60-foot Volvo, and by that stage the 5 of us could sail because we'd sail it to Hammer, we'd sail it to Lord Howe even, and we did a heap of practice races, and so the 5 Stumbos and the 5 good sailors, we made it to Hobart with Peter Overton on board. I'll tell you a few funny stories about him, and it was a great experience. Yeah, so we raised 100 odd K for George Gregan Foundation, and it was an amazing thing that we did, and it was literally that's how it was crazy how we got it together.
Tell me, Jim, how important in that situation was a united vision or a leader of the pack? Like, tell us about what you learned on that around leadership and teamwork. And
I think, well, absolutely, but it's also shared passion. Like, everybody gets their juices flowing about it, and it happens, right? Like, because everybody feels it, wants it, they're excited about it, and we're dreaming about it, and it's that that's what makes it happen, I think.
Everyone just being so aligned on where you're heading and wanting it so bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that situation, absolutely, yeah. I mean, everyone's got we could see what was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen, and so we just went and did what we had to learn how to sail and get it done.
What was your bigger lesson from that? Because you and I have had lots of discussions around, like, it's not all beer and Skittles. No. Some pretty horrendous stuff on that race you got to go through.
The trip, yeah.
Yeah, what were your biggest learnings, or what would you say to people listening around, takeaways, or things that they could implement into their life, or when they've got a tough situation from that?
That's hard to answer just in terms of referencing it with that boat race. But the thing about those Hobarts is that, when you go to sea, you do roll the dice. So you sort of see the best and the worst in people. I mean, I was at times petrified. I was crying for mummy, no question. But you knew you had a job to do. You didn't let anyone know you were scared, but you just got your job done. And there was probably one bloke, I hope he doesn't see this, but he never got involved.
We won't mention any names, because even we're getting about 10,000 eyes on each one of these. Yeah. Do you want to park it, or do you want to talk about it?
No. There was an incident in the next morning when everyone was up on deck that whole night, and we were going across Bass Strait, and we had the spinnaker up at night, and we were flying. Like, it was we were with some elite sailors, and they had this thing on sort of 30 knots precipitating. It was just like this down every wave, where everyone was right down the back strapped on. Anyway, we all night we were on tender hooks, no sleep, and then they said that we had, like, you can go downstairs for like have 2 hours kit before we got to go again. So we all went down, and as soon as you shut your eyes, it's like that, you're back up. And anyway, there was one bloke who refused to come back up. So he let us down a bit. And no matter what we could do, we couldn't get him up. So
and how did that impact? Like, did that have an impact on everybody or performance?
I don't know what you mean there.
So I suppose, like, when there's a band, everyone's got to pay an instrument.
Oh yeah, no, well, we bag him. He's still a mate. We've bagged him to this day, but
but at the time, did that have
and he's gone on to be very successful in business too. But you've met him too. But yeah, I think it's it wasn't his go. He doesn't go sailing anymore. Like he found his. He really was, to his credit, I guess, the other way of looking at it, he was there working hard the whole time before that. It was probably just as scared. And
it's interesting though, like I've got a client that I work with, and I think it's important to know what you don't like doing as much as what you do love doing as well. And we've all got to try different things that sit outside our remit. But there's the old story around, your greatest strengths are sometimes your greatest weaknesses as well. So yeah. Just curious, how important it is for everyone to be feeling they're passionate about something they're involved in and be living, breathing and eating it. But at the end of the day, is probably, putting up your hand and having that accountability. If you're not good at something or it's not in your swim lane, that's okay. Just own it. And
yeah, just that honesty as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having the right sort of leadership team to be able to take that honesty on board and flip it so that it is a strength in other areas.
So talking about strengths and flipping things and leadership, you've had some amazing mentors in your life and incredibly important. Would you like to talk about, someone or a theme of someone that's had an incredible impact on your life and why from a mentorship role?
Yeah, probably. I think of mentors. I probably only really had one that I would sort of say has had that type of role, and that's Chris Hickey, who was my old rugby coach, really. And we bonded. I bonded playing under him, and then I was fortunate enough again to coach with him for a number of years up at Eastwood, and we developed a great friendship. He's got an amazing ability to simplify life lessons and life things, and yeah, we've had many a sit down at a coffee shop where we've both had bits and pieces that we've had to share, and often end in tears with us working it out. But yeah, look, he's definitely been someone that I've had to rely on a number of times to advise me. Yeah.
I think that's so good though, keeping it simple and chunking it down with someone that you've just got that unbreakable trust with. And from a sanity point of view, leadership's can be a very lonely place. And I think also having those. Sorry, Jim.
You need to have someone you can talk to, and that you trust. And that's got to be, unconditional. Like there's no judgment there. Like you've got to, but I think you've got to have someone that you can talk to, and it's right. It's very topical now, obviously, as we've come through COVID with all this mental health. It's always been there, but I think it's come through big time. I mean, it's been hard for all of us, myself included, on a number of levels. But I think. Yeah, I really think you really have to have someone that you trust and you can talk to about all your bits and pieces, because we all have them.
500%, and I love the fact that something that I see particularly a lot in our industry is it's okay, mate, or it's good, and we've always got to talk about the market's good and business is good, but allowing yourself to have that one person or that small circle where you can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's really important, and I get for leaders that, we want to be inspirational for everyone in our team. But I think that's probably something I'd really like to hone in from your comments there, is making sure that you have got that one or that group of people where you can be vulnerable and talk about what really is the problems or the challenges or the opportunities, and no judgment.
Correct.
I love that when you said no judgment. What do you do these days for downtime?
Golf.
Golf. Oh, great golf.
Yeah, walk the dog a bit, but yeah, I'm loving the golf. Yeah, I got hooked about. I came very late. I got hooked sort of 3 or 4 years ago, and I can't get enough of it now.
So, Jim, I've seen a lot in not just real estate industry, but in business, where people have gone from COVID, where they were working at home a lot, and actually got quite good with their disciplines around exercise and getting out of the office. And then it's got quite busy again. And I've seen people drop all of that. Given that you've been a professional athlete and a coach, what advice would you have to people around trying to get that back in and prioritizing exercise and how important it is for you?
Gee, look, for me, I think that it's got to be a genuine goal. Like for me, I go through periods where it can be a want, and I think I've got to do this, got to do that. But then you might get a bit of a shock or something, and then you go, right, that's it, and then you actually really have a go. Like you really, it's got to be a proper. It can't be. I love that. It can't be just a thing that you might want. You just got to go, that's a priority, and you got to make it happen. If it means you got to get up earlier or do it later, or you just got to find a way to do it. There's no real secrets to it. It's you either want to do it or you don't.
I love that word, genuine goal, particularly in real estate, because that's the game that we're in. So many people go, I've got to do this amount of appraisals, or I've got to do this amount of routine inspections. But, having that genuine goal, how does that relate back to?
That's exactly the same. Like you think of how hard those prospecting is in real estate, and they know the really successful ones are, 20 calls, before 10 or whatever, like it's a discipline, just like everything else.
And it's relating it to the want, though, that genuine, what's in it? Is it the new house? Is it the good holiday with the kids? Is it more time off? And actually having that link is incredible. Jim, I'm just going to ask you a couple of, I could talk to you all day long because you've got such an incredible, interesting story. And there's so many learnings in there from your background. Before we go to business, can I ask you 3 quick questions?
Yep.
And I've got them written down, a bit of prep here. What is better, to be perfect and late or good and on time?
That's a really good question. And one of my weaknesses is I can procrastinate a little bit. And I know it's a weakness. And so for me, it's definitely good and on time, because in the past I've made a few errors by, if it's 85% and you're sort of hanging off it and you can't make a decision on it because you sort of don't know whether it's perfect or not, then I've lost, whether it's been from proposals or even, an example, I lost the trust of the staff member potentially because I was late getting to I should have done it at good and on time rather than perfect and late. I didn't, and once you're late, you don't get the opportunity to come back. Anyway, that's a good question.
No, I think it's good to throw that in, and I'm going to park the other 2 questions because we kind of, something you just touched on there that I want to dive deeper on. Yep. is I often say that perfection's a validation for other things, and just getting some things out the door. So that's going to lead really well into technology. And offering. So this is, I suppose, where we come into the business side of things. So with your business, Property Services 360, which does specialize in the compliance space, what is it exactly that your business does?
Yep. Okay. So we do compliance for rent rolls in the real estate industry. So we do for residential property. So we started with smoke alarms, and then we built the service offering out, if you like, to include the water flow testing on change of tenancies. We do the safety switch testing, and we also do the window blinds on properties. Interestingly enough, we also are doing quite a few routine inspections as well. There's a few things that I can dovetail into here. So I think that the system that we've built, which has taken a long time, with the foundation is in place now, so that we can really continue to add efficiencies with what we're doing right now. But the other great thing is we've got so many other services that we can bring to this platform quite seamlessly as well, and manage it all through Vantage 360. So we're really excited about that. Version 1 is out there and it's live, and we're really growing quite strongly now, which is great. So we've sort of been hiding away for a while now to make sure we just got the foundation right. Like I wouldn't recommend startup late 40s, going through COVID, 3 kids at private school. It hasn't been easy, but and we've had to learn with working with various sort of system developers as well, and that's been a process in itself. But we're so excited with where we are right now as a business, because we've got everything in place. We've got a great brand and a really good reputation with the agents that use us here.
And I think that's probably the segue that I was going for, is there's some things that do have to be perfect. So there's probably 80% of our day in what we do in business where, like you said, 8 out of 10 is good enough. But then when it comes to compliance, particularly in the property management space, which is what you specialize in, and that's probably, my long way of getting around to some things you can't be flexible on. And I know you've spent a huge amount of money, building out the tech and the ecosystem for agents to ensure that they can partner with you with trust.
Absolutely.
And make sure that data integrity is there.
Yep.
So I think that was the one thing. Sometimes you can't deviate off that perfection.
No, that has to be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you've got people's rent roll on their asset, that's incredibly important. We've heard horror stories out there in the real estate industry where some people are logging into platforms at the moment and see other people's data, which is terrifying. So I think to know that you spend a lot of time and money on that's very important. There's a lot of noise out there at the moment, Jim. People are really confused with plugins into their system, and the prop tech space. There's a lot of noise around that. What would you say to that? And and the outsourcing, I suppose, of all things compliance. What would you talk to that for anyone listening?
Well, I think that there's 2 things to that. I think that there's a lot of noise in the prop tech space, and there has been for some time. So there's also, everyone's a bit fatigued with that. In terms of what people are plugging in, it's not that simple either. Like to get proper, military grade APIs that are encrypted and automate, if you like, into all the main CRMs. That's not easy. And your CRM, these real estate agents need to be checking with the CRM partners that they have the gold tick to be able to integrate into the CRM systems.
I think that would be my advice, guys. Is anyone listening? I was in an office the other day that had 37 different plugins into their property management ecosystem. And you can almost see the property managers are just about to blow. So the first thing is check your subscriptions end of financial year and see what you have got that plugs in. And I always reckon a good little checklist, Jim, to what you were saying is, how does it talk or how does it fit in with the technology that we've already got? So what are the APIs? And the second one is it better for our customer, internal customer, your team? Does it save them time? Is it more efficient? Does it make their life easier? And the third one is the customer external, so your landlord or tenant. And if it doesn't tick one of those 3 or all 3, I probably wouldn't touch it. What do you think about that?
Oh, you have to. That's why actually there's a lot of moving parts. So that's why it's actually a really tricky business. So you really have multiple masters, if you like. So yes, we have to have a great relationship with the tenant because at the end of the day, the tenant is also a customer of an indirect customer, if you like, but a customer no less of the agency. The landlord is absolutely a customer of the agency. So we're very agent focused. So yes, we have multiple masters, but everything that we do or build or implement has to be has to make the agent's jobs easier. So agent number 1 for us, and that's how we've sort of been born, if you like. and our job is to make their job easier. But equally so, we understand that we have multiple masters to all the other players as well.
And Jim, for anyone that's thinking about getting you in, following from today, and that's not what today was about, was promoting business. It's sort of a byproduct of this interview, because Jim is a good bloke and he's very clever at what he does. So I'd encourage people to reach out and come and meet him and his team at our conference in August. But I think a lot of people may not have known, you touched on it very briefly and quickly at the beginning of the interview, that you were involved with Direct Connect, and that's probably where you cut your teeth in the industry. Do you want to share with everybody a little bit about
so look, 2005, I was involved with the opportunity to start Direct Connect in New South Wales, and I did. I took that opportunity, and so we rolled Direct Connect out really in the early days, 2005 in New South Wales, and then I think 2009, I think we moved it to Queensland as well. So I set it up there as well, and look, we're really proud of what we did with that business. Great management team. It's a very different industry now, but we were able to grow that business, into 3,000 plus agents nationally. And, I guess what I could take out of that is that, if you do the right thing by the agent and you maintain all those relationships with the agent, then that sort of growth is very possible. And, a lot of those learnings that came from that business, we were able to put that into our DNA, if you like, when we sat around and thought about how we were going to build Property Services 360.
Actually, that's interesting. So I talk a lot about DNA in my coaching and onboarding and recruitment. When you talk about DNA, and we can see your values up there behind you now, how important is a company's DNA when going on a growth or scale path?
I think it's very important because you have to maintain, you have to maintain those what I call relationship standards that you have with an agent. So, and they're the problems you have when you get bigger, right? So, and we will probably have those problems when we get bigger, but that relationship integrity where every single property manager and agent is equally important, and if they have problems, we need to be empathetic, we need to understand what they are, and we need to fix them, really. So and do it in a way that they will refer us business if they go somewhere else, or if they're talking to a real estate agent. It's not hard, but it's not easy to do. I don't know, does that make sense?
It does. Look, I just think, I bang on about client experience all the time. It's probably the thing that I'm most passionate about, and with a background in scaling companies, I suppose, is just I can't say strongly enough to anyone watching or listening to this, is that there's stuff that you've just can't deviate from certain stuff. It might be 2 things, it might be 6 things, but ultimately, the customer has got to feel content, comfortable and competent in your partnership. And it's the same for suppliers as it is for real estate industry. And I think particularly with the changing market, holy dooly, we better get it right with our customer and work out what are the things that are negotiable and not negotiable, and make sure that we've got that relationship absolutely solid moving into particularly spring. I think it's going to be a very different market in 2022. Now, Jim, we've been on a while, and as I said, I could talk all day, but I want to finish with one thing. And I usually ask around, what people's legacies are or what's important to them, but I'm going to use your words if it's okay for a conversation that Jim and I had the other day, and it sounds a little bit morbid, but it's not. What do you want to, what would you like people to put on your gravestone? Like, what's important?
Okay, well, look, as you know, Kylie, it was a bit sneaky, but that conversation came about from someone that I see pretty regularly around, what wasn't a bit of stress with work. And anyway, the question was have a think about what you would like to see on your gravestone. And I think it sort of shocked me a little bit into thinking really hard about, what really is important. And, I can stress about all this, but there's a whole heap of other areas that I've probably had been lacking in. So anyway, that's all, probably complicating that a bit, but the thing that I came up with was to be a loving husband, and be a great father for my kids. So it was like 7 words. You sort of said he's got to be under 10, but it took me about a week or two to get it out, and I think I knew it straight away, but I just had to go through a bit of a process and to be honest, I've got it on my wall now, so it just helps me,
that visualization,
understand that what all this work stuff's it'll take care of itself.
Do you know what? I think it's such an important thing, and I probably push a little bit on that, Jim. And thank you for sharing and being so honest. But I really think in a changing market, and I've already had so many agents and principals reach out in the last couple of weeks, that are very stressed about where we're heading. But I would say, guys, in markets that are downturn, things still list and sell. There's a lot of noise out there at the moment that we're going to lose a lot of property managers, and there's stress in that place, and recruitment's never been so tough. Guys, it's all got to do with your mindset, and things do get tough. What I would say is, you're a product of your environment. So this is the time to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with great people with great attitudes, and great habits and great behaviors, and, getting rid of the toxicity or the shit, the technical term. And, and Jim did say it, time is a choice, exercise is a choice. Spending time with your family, turning your phone off is a choice. And I've really struggled with that too the last 12 months and getting regrowth going.
We all do. Particularly when I know how hard you work. Yeah, we all do.
But we control our calendar, right? Like, it's up to us. And the more we say yes to, the more we're saying no to. So I'd really like to finish today by saying time is a choice and a priority. You don't wake up being good at sport or business or leadership. I think the thing I've got from you today, Jim, and there's so much, and I'm gonna put in the summary leading into our interview, but with my page of notes, is just that integrity of self, but keeping it simple. The disciplines. But the one thing that really stuck out for me today was it's got to be a genuine goal. It's got to be your goal. You've got to want it.
Yep.
Otherwise it's just bullshit, right? It's just words.
That's right. Yep. Make excuses then. You make excuses. Yes,
excuses will become to the top of the list, I think, in the next 6 to 12 months. But I do think, guys, the climate is changing. Technology is changing. Outsourcing is changing. I think compliance is one of those things we've got to look to do more outsourcing of, particularly if we haven't got the resources. So that's what Jim's business is there for, and recognize that there's a challenge and he's got a solution for it. Jim, where do people find you or your business services?
They can go to our website. So that's www.propertyservices360.com.au. That's probably the easiest one. And then they can reach out via the contact details there. No problems at all. Or if they want to email me directly, that's fine as well. Jim Swan at propertyservices360.com.au as well.
Fantastic. And Jim's details are on our website too, guys. As I said earlier, he's one of our premier partners for our leaders and property management conferences at Hunter Valley, 20th to the 22nd of August. What are you giving away there, Jim?
I think we're giving away a holiday to Vanuatu, aren't we?
It's a beautiful looking holiday in New Caledonia. So I'm exempt, can't apply. But guys, give your team a reward before end of financial year. Show them that you appreciate the hard work they've been doing, and jump onto the Regrowth website and book your tickets for conference. Jim, thank you so much for your time today. Really grateful.
Pleasure, Kylie. Thanks for having me.